Okay, Judges chapter 12, the continuation of this. So let's move on to here to understand the next one. So the Gileadites, remember these groups over on that far side, they slay 42,000 Ephraimites. So this is the Gileadites or the other people like the sons of Ammon, the children of Ammon that are coming down, and they're hitting the tribe of Ephraim on that side, the east side of Jordan. Jephtheh, remember, he was in the last chapter. Isban, Elon, and Abdon each in turn judge Israel. So now we're going to go through several judges. So verse 1, the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephtheh, wherefore passest thou over to fight against the children of Ammon? Passest thou over, and didst not call us to go with thee? We will burn thine house upon thee with fire. So here's the thing. The men of Ephraim come out and go. Remember, they were on the west side of Jordan. I had to think for a second there. They're on the west side of Jordan. They're going, why didn't you ask us to come fight? We wanted to be in the victory. Yay, we're here to help out and claim the reward, but not do the actual fighting. And remember, this is not the first time they have done this. They complained last time under Gilead, if you remember, that they're like, hey, yay, why didn't you call us and come help? Yay, we're glad to help you enjoy the victory. But, they have this tendency to like wait until they know it's a victory, and then they come in and win. So this, we see this in like politicians a lot. I'm not going to back this person until I know they're going to win. And then they're going to only win because I supported them. Baloney. I hate it when people do that. I'm only here to get the victory. I'm not here to do the dirty work. Verse 2, and Jephtheh said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, ye delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that ye delivered me not, I put my life in my hands, and passed over against the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivered them into my hand. Wherefore then are ye come up unto me this day to fight against me? So he's going, look, guys, I asked for you to help, and you sent nobody. So we did it our way. We went over and did it anyways. You had your chance, but you didn't. Okay, this is not an uncommon thing. Again, you see this in politicians. Oh, they don't do the dirty work, but they'll show up for the photo op at the end. Or, sometimes you see these shows where they bring in an expert. Oh, yay, but, we're going to hire low-level guys to do all the work, and then we'll come in at the end, pound a few nails into this thing and make it sound like we helped you do your remodel. Sometimes that happens, those HGTV shows. Not all of them are that way, but there are a few that the personalities don't really get dirty. They're just there to make it look like they're helping, but they just walk in at the end and enjoy the benefits and the glory. Some are legit. Some are in there doing it all the time, and some aren't. Again, politicians do this. People who want power, but are afraid of doing the dirty work to get the power, basically, to really get in place and get things solved. They just want the benefits. They don't want to have the hard labor. I'm sure you've got plenty of examples. If you want to put in the comments other examples through history, you've seen that, you can. So verse 4, then Jephtheh gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead smote Ephraim because they said, ye Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And so they're like, well, fine, you're not really a part of our tribe anyways. And so Jephthah's pushing down into this group and going, fine, we're gonna fight you now. And so they have this war and they end up winning the Ephraimites. So the Ephraimites are pretty prideful and selfish, and when they got their feelings hurt, they fought back and they lost because they weren't in the right, basically. Verse 5, the Gileadites took the passages of Jordan before the Ephraimites, and it was so that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto him, art thou an Ephraimite? If he say nay, then they said unto him, say now Shibboleth. So this is really fascinating, really interesting part of the story. So Ephraim's offended because the men of Gilead didn't help him. Okay, Ephraim's offended. So they're like, oh yeah, you think you're all so tough? Oh yeah, we're going to be tough, blah, 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 blah. So they fight. And so the Gileadites fight back to defend themselves and go after them. They're in this big fight. And Jephthah and them are pretty pissed too that Ephraim's acting this way. So a lot of fighting going on. But the Gileadites end up securing the river crossings over Jordan. So there's bridges, there's gates, there's places to get over safely over the river. And they were able to accumulate access to those. So when the Ephraimites are fleeing to go home, to get back, they get stopped. And they're like, who are you? And so they're like, oh, it says right here, let me go over. I want to go back home, and they're like, are you an Ephraimite? And he says, no, why? I'm not an Ephraimite. Because again, they're hunting the Ephraimites. And they're like, no, I'm not an Ephraimite at all. So the Gileadite says, okay, great. Say the word shibboleth. Now, just to give you some examples here, shibboleth is a Hebrew word I've learned, meaning some kind of custom of a certain group of people. So this is a word that is specific to the customs of the people of Gilead. Okay? It's a cultural word, like we would use the word menorah for Jewish traditions, or Hanukkah for Jewish traditions, okay, or things like that. For different cultures would have different names for traditions and things that they do in their culture. So shibboleth is the name of part of these culture of the people on that side. So what's fascinating, though, is there's a difference of accent between the Gileadites and the Israelites. And because there's a different accent, the Israelites cannot pronounce shibboleth. They can't pronounce it properly. So they're basically proving, are you an Israelite or not? If you are not an Israelite, then you should be able to say shibboleth. If you are an Israelite, you can't say it because it's a different accent. It's like if you ever learned Spanish, trying to roll your R's to sound in Spanish or even in French. They have that more guttural kind of sound that comes from the back of the throat sometimes as they speak, or, trying to learn German, with kind of a deeper type sound. Sometimes that accent can't be pronounced accurately by other people. And again, if you ever heard somebody from a foreign country try to speak English, like even Southern, try to speak Southern, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. So that's what they're using, that kind of a test to determine who is an Ephraimite and who isn't, who's part of Israel and who isn't. So they say unto them, say now shibboleth. And he said sibboleth. He can't say it. He can't get the sh sound. It's an S to him. For he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan. And there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 42,000. So they stayed and they guarded him and they wouldn't let the Ephraimites over. And every time they did, they had to say shibboleth. And so they'd do their darndest to say shibboleth, but it came out sibboleth because they couldn't get that enunciation out. If you ever learned a foreign language, if you want, put in the comments what foreign language you've learned and how you have seen this. What are some of those things that you've seen that accent just makes it hard to pronounce those words properly? They used this to determine who was an Israelite and who wasn't. And if you couldn't say shibboleth, you got executed, basically. 42,000 people died this way. That's wild. Now, verse 7, and Jephtheh judged Israel 6 years. So Jephtheh was a judge and helped Israel out for 6 years as their ruler. Then died Jephtheh the Gileadite, who was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. And after him, Isban of Bethlehem judged Israel. So now we get somebody from probably Benjamin or Judah who had the city of Jerusalem. And now Bethlehem is a suburb of Jerusalem, I should say. So they're coming out of Bethlehem, that city, which is very popular, that we know a lot about from the New Testament. Verse 9, and he had 30 sons and 30 daughters whom he sent abroad, and took in 30 daughters from abroad for his sons, and he judged Israel 7 years. So 30 sons and 30 daughters, 60 kids, and then his 30 sons bring back 30 wives. So he's got 90 people in his family, not to mention their children, his grandchildren and great-grandchildren and stuff. So he probably had a lot of wives too. So yeah, still some polygamy going on, basically. He judged Israel for 7 years, and then Isban died and was buried at Bethlehem. After him, Elon, a Zebulunite, judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. And Elon, the Zebulunite, died and was buried in Aijalon in the country of Zebulun. And after him, Abdon, the son of Hillel, a Pirathonite, judged Israel. Now, I'm not sure who a Pirathonite is. I don't think they're in the Bible dictionary, so we may have to look them up online or something to look that up. But that's not an Israelite that I believe. That could be maybe a mix of Israelite-ish people and some of the other people in the area, or completely from another land. And he had 40 sons and 30 nephews that rode on 70 ass colts, and he judged Israel 8 years. Now, something that's interesting here that Rasmussen in his book, Introduction to the Old Testament, brought up says, the mention of the number of sons and daughters from time to time and the fact that they could all be mounted on colts seems to be something of an ancient symbol of status. So they could ride, all of his 40 sons and 30 nephews, so he's got a lot of men in his family. They rode on baby donkeys, basically. They could ride. That is somewhat of a status symbol, apparently, to show his family had a lot of status. Verse 15, and Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, died and was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim. So that was, maybe he was part of the tribe of Ephraim in the mount of the Amalekites. Remember the people of Amalek that they destroyed. So Israel goes through these several judges that they have, these that didn't, each of them didn't last very long, but they were around for a while. So let's see as we get through, we'll probably have another trip through the pride cycle in the next chapter, I bet. So let's jump over to chapter 13 to learn more.